Hey traders, welcome to Market Watch for Precious Metals. We are currently sitting on the 24th of May, heading to the middle of the year, and hopefully we've all made some fortunes by now. So the main thing at the moment, I mean, gold can be one of the main markers of this market. With the bond yields up, the US dollar going quite strong, less investors are in gold, which is, caused it to have quite a decent sell-off. Overall, the past 12 months is still up, so depending on when you got in, when you got out, hopefully you've made some good money on it. Let's just dive in straight gold straight away. I've just drawn my fib from the last, a little bit off there, but the last hit there about 13.65. Now, if you're around that, the fundamentals are there. I mean, if we look down here, if you can see my pointer here, we had an RSI, so the relative strength index was showing around 76, which for gold for me is a short, unless there's major tension in the world, which at that stage there wasn't really. That's definitely overbought. So it was an easy short, really. It was a quick spike. It's on the 4 hour. But if you caught that, nice back. Now we draw that Fibonacci down here to the 21st of this month. You can actually see these nice little bounces on the fib lines at spot. It keeps it very close. It's always interesting how close it keeps to these fib levels. Obviously, bot traders these days, and I think it's 100%, but fairly close. Brings us back to here. So what I'm seeing at the moment, I still feel we are gathering a bit of strength here. You can see this the bottom trend line that I've sort of drawn there, and your sort of top line here. I think it is trying to push towards that 1300. Nothing gives me, and I think it's going to quickly rally there. I think it might just be a slow build. Interest rates in the US are most likely going to increase 2 to 3 times this year. What pressure is that going to have on the gold? Is it going to be continual adverse for traders? Is it going to rally back up to the 1350? I think at the moment, without some sort of external influence for risk, I think we're going to be in a bit of a depressed gold. It's going to be interesting where the trading range ends up. At the moment, the RSI is sitting around sort of just over 50, 55. So it's building strength, but it could easily be knocked down, and getting back down to this sort of 1280. I mean, there's no short-term really support level that I can really see. We can go back in 1270, 1275 or other levels, back down to 1250 other support levels, but those were fundamentals last year. So it is sitting at the lowest that I've seen it this year. If we actually scroll out, you can just get an idea. So if we go back to, we got Feb. Let me find for you pretty much the first. So I mean, you can see this massive sort of run up at the end of last year, and let's just say the year started around there. So I think for me, honestly, with gold, I'm out of it at the moment. I made some nice money shorting it. What I'd be looking for is anything that keeps up to this trading range with an RSI over 70. Again, looking at the reasons, if it's just technical traders or if it is actually external influences, whether there's risk issues, whether the greenback starts declining and the money starts coming back into the to gold, and then of course keeping an idea on the bonds, because as those bonds, US bond levels get up, gold's less attractive to the institutional investors. So at the moment I'm neutral on gold, but anything back around 1280 I'll be looking at a buy, again keeping to the RSI down here. And then this 1300 level, I'll be interested to see if that does form a new trading range, which would then get this sort of fib retracement here between 1300 to 1313, 1300 to 1320, well 23 but 1320 sort of thing. And then of course always gold's poor little cousin is silver. Now with silver, I'm a bit interested with this. I can see this bottom trend line growing, but I can't really see a sort of parallel trend line up. So I think to me there's this sort of resistance around that's at 16.53, and I'm gonna, if this sticks to this and there's a bit of a triangle, normally that will pop to the upside because the lower the bottoms are getting higher, and normally it will eventually pop up. You can see there's the RSI here is sort of jumping over the place. Again, I'm pretty neutral for silver at the moment. I just want to see what it does, if it does push up and follow gold, but as much as they do tend to follow each other, and they're not exact mirrors. So for me, what I might look for silver, I'm not so much looking for if it rallies up, whether I might try and catch something up, but what I'm looking for is maybe any sort of shoot downs again with a low RSI, because if you do look down this bottom where my cursor is, when this RSI does get around this sort of 26 mark, 25 mark, you've almost, if you see my cursor in here, here, here. You know, it's nothing's guaranteed, but once you get to those mid 20 RSI levels, you've got a pretty good chance to long. As for shorting it, again, you know, up here's RSI 76, sort of around there, similar to gold. The RSI here was 72 before this next sort of downward trend. I would probably want to see an RSI over 75 before I shorted silver, and I'd want to sort of see why. Is there external influences that mirroring gold from there? Then we're over to palladium and platinum on my right here. So we'll go palladium first. Now there's obviously still a bit of a supply deficit, but nothing major. I mean, for it to this last shoot here that you saw up, that was actually more to do with the Trump potential putting tariffs on one of the Russian executives who were major nickel. I can't remember. Can't bother looking it up 100%, but it was one of the major nickel producers in Russia, one of the industry titans there, and they're worried that if there was tariffs on his nickel plants, that would affect palladium because some of these metals are a byproduct. So that's why that shot up. And then when the trade tariffs eased, it shot back down again. So you can see palladium's been very volatile, except though it has found this nice little range at 942 of a bottom, new bottom there, and you can see this sort of nice support level, and it's sort of held this line around the 968 fib. Well, it's 969 on the fib, but you can see it's held that quite well. And again, I can't really find a parallel trend line up, but you can see this. So if the bottoms keep going up, but it keeps hitting this resistance point of around 1007, to me that says there's going to be some more upside. Will we going to see 1060 again? Not too sure. Again, just watch the RSI, the volumes there. Everything there does say for me that it's most likely going to go up. But again, I would need to be there's a bit more conviction before I actually longed this. At the same time, if there were some sudden shoot-ups again around this sort of 1058, I'd be looking at shorting it, looking at this RSI. I'm cursing down here again. Again, this RSI around 75, 76. That's always, once you get to that level, it's looking overbought. Not a guarantee. I've seen things go much higher than that. But it gives you an idea to short from there, and if we actually scroll out, you'll see where we were. So this was on the date of the 15th of Jan, where it got up to around 1100, wasn't it? 1130, 1135. So you can just see how high it has been to where it is now, but you can clearly see it's struggling to get back above that sort of 1358, around that range sort of thing. So at the moment I'm neutral on palladium, keeping an eye on it. Again, if there's some sort of breakdown and we get back into this sort of 940 mark, that's where I'll be looking to purchase on that one. I'm going to put a long in. As for shorting, I'd probably wait till not even 1040. I probably want to see, depends how quick it got there, but I just want to see if it does try and bust back through this 1055, 57 mark, and where it goes from there. And then for platinum, now platinum was there was a nice easy buy for this one. It punched down to this sort of 875. I didn't think it would this low, 877. I saw it again last year. If we scroll out, it went yeah, that's right. So back down here, that was back in the 14th of December last year, where it was that sort of low. There's an 887, low 8, 873, and I've noticed that with platinum that seems to be a bottom. No matter how long it drops, that's a severe resistance. Remember, these metals are used in manufacturing and industry, even jewellery. So there's a point where they're just too cheap, and of course they get so cheap, demand picks up, it pushes the price back up. So I want to go back now into the present. So if you haven't bought into this yet, you probably missed a little bit. It is in this recovery stage. I haven't actually drawn my support yet, but you can sort of see it. It's because it's pretty steep, and I haven't seen enough. I'd prefer another point to sort of see if it's just gone up quite fast. And again, even here, I'm just sort of, to me, these lines don't mean too much because there's not many other data points. So let's just assume that it's going to keep this line, but I think really this trading sort of range around this sort of 898, 910 where it's going to go. Anything under 900 for me is looking good. Once we get back towards this 890 and under, back into this fib level, it's a buy. Look, I would keep an eye on if there is another. I think June is when the Feds are meeting next. If there's another rise in interest rates and gold busts down and then platinum follows it, that's the main thing I'd be looking for. And then if it gets back into that 880 range, 890, I'll be looking at a buy. As for shorting it, there's previous high around here of 927. when this Feb level is 931, but nothing's 100%. So we're sort of around here, around this 927 mark. If it gets back to there, will that be a resistance point? I think by the time it reaches that, you're going to be out towards probably June. Whether the traders around here, it's going to have as much of an effect. I mean, that was back in the 11th, so it's almost going to be a month time. And to me, sometimes those fundamentals or the technicals don't always mean as much the further you go out. So I think with this one, again, I don't see it as quick a build as this. It's probably going to muddle around a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to still be at a discount to Palladium as well. I mean, this is the discount between these two. I mean, last year Platinum was more expensive, and it was quite often seen that Palladium would be more expensive. But you got 973 around that trading to the discount at 908. They had $100 discount when it did actually have this drop off as well, and that's another thing to watch for platinum trading. Sometimes to trade on platinum, I'm watching Palladium more, because once I see that $100 discount, I sort of think, okay, is Palladium going to come down, or is platinum going to be pulled up? And everything I've seen over the past 12 months isn't, well, not 12 months because it hasn't always crossed it, but since Palladium's been higher, it's Palladium bringing up platinum, not so much platinum bringing down Palladium. So that's them at the moment. Pretty much neutral on all of them now. I'm just watching the RSIs, seeing what's going to happen with the Fed announcements, with the trade tariffs if they kick in. Keep ebbing and flowing, whether they're going to be in or not, and seeing what goes from there. So as always, protect your equity, happy trading, watch those RSI, watch those trend lines, watch those fib, and see how you go.